Hello all and welcome to episode 57 of the Green Arrow, an FPL podcast by Fantasy Football Hub, as we hear the clicks of wildcards being activated across the world ahead of Gameweek 31. My name is Fergie and a big welcome to my co-host Adam Hopcroft. Adam, what colour was your arrow in Gameweek 30?
It was a green arrow, I can confirm. So
A big green again.
Yeah, it was okay. It was I'm fairly pleased with it. So two decent green arrows back to back. So I got 76 points. So I got
76.
Yeah, I was fairly pleased with that. So I got, let's go for it. I made the bad decision with my goalkeepers. So I had Meslier in goal. So that only got me 2 points instead of 4. Being greedy.
I forgot the amount of times you said that this season. Oh, I went with Meslier and I shouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? Meslier is, when you look at over the last 6 game weeks, he's right up there in terms of point scorers. So he's actually done okay. But yeah, Sheffield United scored pretty much their only shot the way it goes. We've got let's have a look. So I bought Aspilicueta in. He was good for nothing. Got me literally nothing. So that was a wasted move. But yeah, I'm sure it would come good this week. And then I had Diaz and Shaw, who got me 6 and 2 points respectively. And then my midfield did all return. So Salah with 8, Lingard with 12, Bruno with 5, and Rafinha with 6. And then had Bamford, who got 2, Kane with nice 26 as captain. And probably my favourite points of the week was from Ollie Watkins. And it was, I must admit, even when it went in, I thought it's probably offside. And but yeah, it was that was a nice perk to the game week. So yeah, all in all, fairly happy in the top 100k. No violin for me. So
Violins, I'm devastated.
Yeah. What about yourself? How did you do?
Oh, it was okay. It was good. It was going well until the Monday evening. It was basically kind of Antonio versus Lingard, right? And I ended up on 56. So I had a slight red. Antonio 1 pointer, like West Ham go and score 3 in the first half. Antonio not involved and then goes off injured, and obviously Lingard, who's his main competitor in many teams, obviously goes and has another cracking game. I've got to be fair, he's been absolutely superb. I had Martinez 4, Shaw 2, Dallas 2, Dino 1. So close to a clean sheet for Luka Dean as well. Diaz came in for Gundogan for 6, and then I had Bruno, Rafinha, Son 1 point off the bench. Kane captain saved me because I think other than that, I didn't really have anything. And then just Bamford 2, who I brought in for Ollie Watkins, and then Antonio's 1. So on the face of it, I had a small red from 50k to 54k, which is not the end of the world, but disappointing because I was on a green arrow up to around 43k at the end of the Sunday evening. So I was hoping for a nice rise before I hit the wildcard button, but yeah, so little violin.
A little violin.
You know what? I've got to.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd bring it out.
I've got to play the little violin because I'm a bit gutted. I think that Antonio to Lingard, Antonio instead of Lingard was a bit harsh. So yeah, we'll get the violin out there. Antonio 1 point. Antonio basically made Lingard's first goal because he made the run off, didn't he? But anyway, I can't really complain. But the big news for me, my wild card is active. It is active, and I am very excited. I'm probably the most excited I've been all season, ever since sort of game week 3 or something. And the big news, Adam, is your wild card is
not active.
Inactive.
Yeah.
Wow.
Inactive. Okay. Yeah. So have you you were completely set, weren't you, on game week 31? Were you ever tempted at any point in the game week not to activate it?
Yeah, after I activated it. So I got a bit...
Oh, really?
Well,
okay.
I say tempted. I made a boo-boo, which I'm not scared to admit. But I was making drafts on Saturday. I was really excited. As soon as I saw my team for game week 31, it wasn't very good, right? And I thought, do you know what? So I started to make drafts. Obviously, then on Saturday night, Jota and Salah, who I I mentioned last week, were likely to be two of the key components in part of Wildcard, and Trent actually, were the three I was thinking of bringing in for Liverpool, and they all absolutely smashed it. So I looked at that. I thought Jota will likely rise this evening. There was another couple of players who were going to rise, and I actually pressed a button. So I pressed Wildcard, and I made the transfers. But what I messed up on a little bit was I bought Gundogan for like really cheap. I can't remember how much. I think it was like 5.5 million. I got him really early, and now if I want him back for one game week, he's now 6.1 million to buy him back. So that was my error, and I don't mind kind of admitting that's obviously a massive error. But I would say I'm excited to wildcard. Obviously, we're going to go into a lot of detail here onto wildcard options, my team's strategies and things. But yeah, that's the only really time I was like, oh, what have I done? I could have just left it. But then there were rises for Jota. I think it was another rise for another player I brought in. Someone dropped as well. But anyway, I don't want to put any dampener on
anything. The transfer you made last week, doing Watkins to Bamford or bringing Bamford in, really was like a 1 week punt. So I think you'd sort of set yourself up.
Dead ended my team, really.
Yeah, exactly.
You're absolutely right. So as we are live, please feel free to join in the chat at any time. Let us know your thoughts on the topics as we go through the relevant sections. Feel free to ask some questions. We have a massive lobby tonight. Good evening. It's already been pointed out to me multiple times. I haven't updated my Twitter handle on screen. It's still showing at Fergie222. I've changed it to at FFH_Fergie. But thank you so much for those. I can see we've got some very, very excited people in the chat around this wildcard evening. I haven't been so excited for all the doom and gloom of 29. I've been so excited for such a long time, so I can't wait to get into it. Good evening, Guy Parfit, FPL Smoggy, Russell Baker, Shanley Result, FPL Geordie, John Chappell, Mike Williams, Nuki, Mr. Brown, FPL Fozzie, Ricardo Zamora, who I think is all the way from Costa Rica, I want to say, Daniel Robert, Prabhakar, Ben McDonald. We have got so many people in with us this evening. Hopefully we can bring you an hour or two full of ideas, excitement and drama, especially when I reveal my team. Got a couple of rogue picks, I think. For any new watchers and listeners, if you haven't subscribed to us yet, please press the subscribe button in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Set the alerts so you don't miss our live streams every week right here on this channel. Also, please press the like button if you enjoy our content. So this evening we are talking everything wildcard, including firstly when is the best when is the best time to wildcard. So I think it's this week. Adam thinks it's not this week, so we will touch on that first. We're going to analyse the best picks for a Game Week 31 wildcard. We'll reveal our Game Week 31 teams and plans so far. Look at the best captaincy options in a wide open Game Week. Again, there's so many captaincy picks this week. It's unbelievable. We'll give the competition results from Game Week 30 and look to give away another prize this week before finally taking a look at the top of the Green Arrow podcast mini league. So firstly, we have now on screen a graphic up from Fantasy Football Hub partner ffstuff.co.uk. If you haven't checked out this site and you play any fantasy football games, it is a wonderful site, ffstuff.co.uk, showing the potential schedule for all teams, including Europe and domestic cups. This is obviously subject to change with some fixtures yet to be rearranged, potentially a big double Game Week 35 we should mention, and blank Game Week 36 if the government plans to reintroduce fans into stadiums play out. Now I know that Ben Crellin has tweeted a couple of things that this kind of may or may not happen, but we're not going to put that in the schedule because nothing has been confirmed. They're still just in talks about it. So firstly, Adam, with this in mind, it looks like you aren't playing your wildcard in 31 like me. What is your current thinking about the best time to use a second wildcard?
I think the first thing to say, I think it's team specific. If I had your team, I probably would have wildcarded. So I understand that, but I do think it's very, very team specific. So I feel at the moment I have done a wild card draft, but I just wasn't excited by it. There were probably 3 or 4 differences that I just didn't feel would give me the upside. So for this game week in particular, so it was off the top of my head, it was Martinez versus Mendy. It was Trent versus Diaz. So I don't think there's much in that. Son versus Rafinha, and I don't like the fixtures particularly for either of those. And then I think it was Iniacho versus Dunk, and I got a feeling Dunk could do okay this week. So I just thought they're okay, but I don't see major upside. And I convinced myself, I think it was on last week's pod, I hadn't considered the possibility of not wildcarding this week until we talked about it. And then the more we talked about it, I thought, well, actually 32 could be a good option. But I may not even wildcard in 32. I think my strategy at the moment is going to be as flexible as I can be, play every, and I'll use my, if I can get to 35 with wildcard and tact, I will do. If I need it before, I'll use it before. So I'm going to be as flexible as possible. I think a lot of my players are performing well at the moment. So if I look across my team, other than maybe the strikers who don't particularly like the fixtures, I'd be taking out good performers, and I think there's a huge risk to that. And I just think with a wild card, where I've got it wrong in the past is I've wild carded, and then my original team has ended up doing really well. Yeah. And I think there's a huge risk with that at the moment, because I'll be taking whoever I took out would be informed players, and I think I can wait, whether it's another week, so get an extra week's information, particularly around the Champions League and the Europe fixtures. I think we'll get more information on Leicester, how they're going to set up with Maddison coming back. Is it Iniacho the real deal? Is he a flash in the pan? So I think there's quite a lot of benefits, I think, to waiting a week, but it's really team dependent, because if you had played like you had to dead end your team. So we talked about it last week. I bought in Azpilicueta ahead of Alonso to give me the flexibility. If I'd have bought in Alonso, well, I suppose he didn't start tonight, but it would have maybe been an easier decision to wildcard. So I think it's team dependent, and I really don't think there is a right answer. I mean, I've ventured onto Twitter a little bit this week. We'll talk about some of my tweets, which might have caused a little bit of controversy. I love it, and that's what
Son is not the real deal.
Oh, that's what I wanted. A little bit of controversy, just to throw it out there, and let's see the reaction. But it seems like a lot of people are wildcarding in 31. I think if people have dead-ended and planned to do it, great. But I think I can get away with doing something a little bit different. I don't think my team's in bad condition. And I think also the matches in between the Champions League ties, I think things like the lineups are going to be quite tough to predict. So I don't think you've made a bad decision to wildcard, but I think for me, I can get more upside at another point in the season. Now, it could be next game week where I've got more information. It could be, I think 35 is an opportunity, or holding it just to see what happens, because it is still unknown at the moment. But there could be an opportunity. There could be an opportunity there. So I want to just get, I want at least 4 game weeks out of it. And if it's the last 4 game weeks of the season, and I'm in a similar position to what I am now, it will make it quite fun. But when I did my team, I just wasn't excited by it. I didn't feel it was a huge upgrade to what it was, what it is at the moment.
Yeah,
and you've got to have that feel. You've got to be excited by a wild card, and it was very different for you. You were clearly excited. You felt it was right to play. But in the past, I've been, in the past with wild cards. Sometimes I've planned it. I thought I'm going to do it, whatever, even if it didn't feel right. And for me, it doesn't feel right this week. And I'm just thinking, well, I'll hold off. There's no pressure to play it. Obviously, I'm not going to go I could end up going to game week 38 and just having a free hit the last game of the season. But yeah, we'll see. I'm going to be patient and trust the players that I have. But it could be next week. But you're going for it, which makes this pod more interesting, because it'd be boring if we're saying the same things.
And it also would have been crap doing a wildcard pod for Gameweek 31 if neither of us were wildcarding. But I think, observationally, I think we've both switched playing styles over the last 5 or 6 weeks, because, over the period 24, 25 and 26, I was urging a bit more, caution, reserved, your team's good, don't take out performing players, and you were a bit more, I want to get Sterling, and these things. And we seem to have switched a little bit. I'm just having a really quick look of the key differences between our teams and why I'm so hell-bent on wildcarding and you're not. And I can actually see 2 key players, I think, in your team that I haven't got, and you will have 3. Now, I haven't got any Chelsea players. I would have gone for Alonso or Aspie, had I not felt like I needed to go for Bamford last week. I haven't got any Chelsea, and I think I need them, go into this run of fixtures. And I haven't got Salah either, and you've got Salah. And you are very likely, I'm assuming, going to be bringing in maybe Jota as well. So I would only have 1 transfer, no Jota, no Salah, and no Chelsea. And that, and that's still not touching on on teams like Leicester, etc. I think, I think you're right. I dead-ended into it, and you didn't. You left yourself open, and now you've got a potential advantage now of using it later on. Interestingly, in the chat, we've got Mark from Blackbox in the chat saying that he is holding off as well. So I think he was pretty set last week, maybe. I think you're a little bit more reserved, but Mark is saying it looks like he's holding off. And we've also got the FPL fan show saying they are on Wildcard. So two other amazing shows there, and it just proves we're all at different places, in terms of our teams. And I think you're right, it's team dependent. So
I think it is, and you could look at 50 different teams, and there will be different times to wildcard or different choices to make for each of those teams. So I think if everybody, if everyone's wildcarding, then it doesn't make it as interesting with everybody doing the same thing. So I think it's very, very team specific.
Cool. And just to touch on the schedule we've got in front of us, I think a couple of real key observations. So Man City, are basically playing every 4 days, more or less, until the rest of the season. And you know what? Even if they don't make it through next week, which I think is unlikely, I think they will make it through in the Champions League next week. Even if they don't make it through, the next few league games of Leeds, Villa and Spurs, with the Chelsea FA Cup in there anyway, I think they are going to be heavily rotating still. I think it's good to look at a team's potential whole set of games. You can have a look at, at kind of gaps, whereas maybe, for Man United, they've got a gap between their game,
exactly,
game 32 and 33 with Burnley and Leeds. And I was also saying, Liverpool's fixtures, if they get knocked out of the Champions League next week, which is probably likely at the moment because they're not in the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup, they will have a completely, clean run of really nice fixtures all the way through. So like I say, if you don't, if you haven't visited ffstuff.co.uk and you play any sort of fantasy football, make sure you go there and have a look at those. So focusing now, Adam, a little bit more, on the Game Week 31 wildcard. We now have a graphic up from the fixture ticker from fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, sorted by ease from now until the rest. From now until the end of the season. We have highlighted some fixture runs during this period to help us highlight the teams we're going to focus our attention on. So Arsenal, basically from Game Week 31 all the way till 38, have a really, really nice set of fixtures. Their only really difficult fixture in that time will be away to Chelsea in Game Week 36. And Spurs and Liverpool as well. Apart from Man United this weekend for Spurs, they obviously blank in 33, but they've got the double in 32 and really nice fixtures to the end of the season. Liverpool starting this weekend. They've got one game away to Man United in 34, but other than that, really nice fixtures all the way through. Teams who've got nice fixtures in the kind of short to medium term from now, you've got Wolves from 31 to 35, and you've got Leicester from 32 to 35 as well. And you've also got Chelsea from 31 to 34. But I also think it's important to look at teams who have got fixtures at the end, right? So, when we're thinking of filling our bench, or kind of enablers and thinking further down the line, you don't want to be making, lots of transfers to just fulfill the fixtures at the end and get out a decent team. There are a few teams, including Burnley, West Ham, Sheffield United, Southampton, Man City, actually, and Leeds, who have also got nice fixtures, right at the end of the season. So, in terms of enablers, just as an example, I'm thinking of holding on to Dallas for Leeds. He's perfect. Yeah. I got him in nice and cheap. I think I got him in for something like 4.6, for example. But Leeds last three, Burnley, Southampton, and West Brom. He could be a really nice enabler there as well. So, is there any other teams, Adam? There, and of those teams I've mentioned, obviously Wolves have looked pretty horrific of late. Do you think they are the teams to target in a wild card, or is there any? Have you got any other thoughts?
I think going back to the point that we made last week, there is a risk of going away from good performing players. So we look at Arsenal. I think they've got very good fixtures. Do I trust them? Probably not. And I think their priority will be the Europa League. They're not going to qualify for Europe through the league. So, and they will probably feel that against some of those teams, they can put weakened teams out. Yeah. Or not weakened, but not their first choice. And I think they will prioritise the Europa League. I think we'll know more next Thursday if they've gone through or not. Because if they go out, then it makes it more appealing. But then I think also looking at the fixtures, I think Sheffield United are down and are not offering much, but Fulham are fighting for their lives.
I agree there.
Everton are actually quite good away. Newcastle, are going to need points. West Brom, we obviously saw what they did the weekend. So the one thing I haven't really seen mentioned is that for those now, they're coming into the business end of their season and need results. West Brom are largely improved. I think Newcastle played quite well against Spurs in part. So I would expect those fixtures to probably be a little bit tougher than they probably would have been, 4 or 5 weeks ago. Point, yeah. You see it. You see it every season. It won't be for I'm not saying all of them will be, but I think you tend to see that the teams fighting relegation. You only have to look at Villa last year. Watford had a spell where they picked up results. So I don't necessarily buy into the fact. And then they've got Chelsea, Palace, Brighton. Okay, so they're okay. So they've got okay fixtures. I think Liverpool is a different scenario because they need to finish in the top 4 unless they win the Champions League. Yeah. So, and I think Klopp will use it as momentum to try and build up and obviously help give them a chance in the second tie, which I think they've got. They've shown in the past they can overturn those type of results. You've got Salah going for the Golden Boot. Salah seems to be back on it as well for me. He looked great against Arsenal, and he's obviously got a goal the other night. So I think Salah seems to be back on it. I think Jota looks good as well. People have mentioned Trent. The defence has been okay in the league. It's a little bit more settled. So I think triple Liverpool, is fine. Wolves don't get the hype personally. I think they've got, again, on paper, they've got good fixtures, but Fulham are going to be up for that game. They obviously collapsed against the mighty Villa on Sunday, but I don't think they're down yet. So I think Fulham, Sheffield United might be an okay game on paper for them. I don't think you ever get easy games against Burnley, and then West Brom is a local derby, and they need to get points. So I actually I don't think Wolves' fixtures are as good as people are making out. You could maybe punt on Neto, but are the better alternatives. There's the midfield five for me are the sort of the gold spots in our team. Leicester, I think, have got good fixtures. I think Declan Rice being out will help them the weekend.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And actually fancy Leicester to win that game. And then you look at it again. Okay, so West Brom, the Palace, Southampton, Newcastle. Yeah, I think they've got. I think because they've got the big difference with as well is Leicester have got something to play for, whereas Wolves and Arsenal haven't. So I think they'll be equally as motivated. Have a look. I know you've mentioned West Ham's run later in the season. Yeah, I think that's possibly interesting. But I think West Ham. I think without Rice and potentially Antonio, that could be an issue for them. And I don't see them. I see them dropping out of the top four. I think like probably a lot of people. I think it'll be between Chelsea, Liverpool, and Spurs for that last spot. So, so I think Chelsea have been good defensively. I think it's I don't think you could argue going for a couple of their players. I think I'd double up on the Chelsea defence if I was a wild card, because I think if you have one, you're not going to get any benefit. So they're sort of the initial thoughts. I would stick more with the teams that have genuinely where the league is important to them, and there were a few in Europe that were still in Europe. But I think Chelsea and Liverpool, it's still important. Leicester, it's important. Arsenal and Wolves, not so much.
Cool. And got a question. What if you? Obviously we're looking at this primarily from a wildcard view, but what if you have no chips, Adam? Where would your focus be? You mentioned they're going, for those with the wildcard going for double Chelsea. What about those who, firstly, who haven't got a wild card? What would your priorities of transfers be over the next 2 or 3 weeks?
I think it depends on your team and how you set up at the moment. But I would, obviously there's a lot of different players to look at. But I think Chelsea defence. I think Liverpool from an attacking perspective. I think who else? Leicester potentially as well. I think they'd probably be the three teams that I would target as a priority, because they've been fairly. They're going for the Champions League as well, and I think I think both Leicester and Liverpool have shown they've got goals. So I would look at those two teams. That they would be my priority. I wouldn't worry so much about I wouldn't get obsessed about the Spurs double game week, and I'm going to get some stick for this now, and it's just sort of cool. But I think Kane is essential, and I think he's going to be very, very highly captained. Son won't be in comparison. If you've got Son and Kane, you're going to captain Kane, I think. So I think you're probably better off targeting other players than Son. Personally, I think it's been. I'm sort of dreading the comments coming up now, but I don't think Spurs are in a great moment. Firstly, I think despite the results have been okay, but you can just tell by some of the stuff that's coming out in the press that they don't seem to be in a great position. And I think looking at it logically, they play the not the FA Cup, the League Cup final after the Southampton game.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
So it's possible Son could get 60, 70 minutes and not play. And then I think if you haven't got a wild card, of course, but we're talking about, you've also then going to have two or three players down in 33. So you could just plan and have make it a little bit easier for yourself, because there are loads of good midfielders at the moment, and there's a lot of good options. But I personally don't think he's essential. Do I think he's I think he's a good pick. I think he could do well, but I don't think he's essential. And I think I think, the tweet I put out the other day said exactly that. He is an essential. He's got 2 goals in 16 games. That's, 2 goals and 5 assists in 16 games, which isn't great. If you take out his first 6 games of the season, then I think he's got, in fact, he got more goals in the first 6 games of the season than he has the rest of the season. So they are fairly worrying statistics, I would say.
Here's a stat for you of John Chappell in the chat. So Son's next 5 fixtures reversed this season: 18 points, 24 points, 2, 5, and 13. And I gotta say, I disagree with you. I think going without Son for the double, who largely all season has been, a brilliant player and a brilliant FPL asset. I take your point. He's only scored 2, assisted 5 in the last 16. As I say every week, that doesn't mean that he's only he'll do that for the rest of the season. I think he's got the fixtures to do it. United up next. All right, it's not going to be the 6-1 we saw at Old Trafford, obviously, but those 2 games, Everton and Southampton, I think are lovely games. They blank in 33, and then they've got Sheffield United and Leeds especially going to be absolutely wide open. So I disagree, and I've got Son. I've had him, since about game week 3, I think, and for me, he's going nowhere. I think you're asking for trouble, personally, by not having him.
I'm not saying I won't have him, because a lot of it, I'm going to watch the game the weekend. Yeah. And obviously it depends on whether a wild card or not, and what are the transfers. All I'm saying is I don't think he's essential. I think effectively what we're getting is that, we could say the Everton games is standard fixture. You're getting the extra 1 game, but then for somebody it could mean that they don't have a player in 33 that could claw some points back. I just think you need to look at it over the whole thing. I think defensively, I think Leeds have improved. I don't think they're as bad as they're definitely. I think in the last 6 game weeks, they're the 7th best defence. So they're not as open as they were. But anyway, I just thought I'd put that into. I've just seen somebody's put in the chat. And it's actually not on Son. Adam needs a coaster. Keeps slamming that glass. So apologies. What I will do is I will place it. I've got a notepad here, so that will.
Adam is getting much better with his podcasting etiquette. We're getting it with all the bits.
No phone today. No phone.
No phone. We've got him a microphone. He's got the headphones. He's got all his screen all sorted this evening. So yeah.
I think just to go back to the Son thing.
Yeah, go on.
I put the tweet out yesterday for a bit of fun and a bit of jest and all of that, but I just don't think he's essential. That's all. I could envisage a scenario at the moment where I don't own him in game week 30. Is it 32? We'll see. We'll see how Spurs look the weekend, because it from where it comes from is I don't think everything's right in Spurs at the moment, and I think that for me, it does put me off going with two Spurs players in attack anyway.
Okay, a couple of other questions while we're here. If you've got your bench boost left, obviously, in terms of picking a 31 wild card. No, sorry.
Yeah.
If you've got your wild card left and your bench boost left, would you wild card this week and try and set up a bench boost, for later down the line? Either when Spurs have, I think Villa maybe, Spurs may have extra games. You may have the big double in 35 as well. So we kind of touched on this last week, and my thoughts on it are clear in terms of I don't think we mentioned it passionately last week, right, around not planning your whole strategy around the double game week, right, especially in 35 when you've potentially still got Champions League, and all this stuff. Teams are going to be absolutely shattered as well, right? But what are your thoughts if you still hold a bench boost chip and a wild card now?
I think it's good using them follow. Using the bench boost the following week from the wild card. I think that makes sense because you're using as much knowledge as possible. Whether these are the weeks to do it, again, I'm not sure. It's I think it's a tough one where the best opportunity, if there is a double game week 35, that could be the best opportunity because I do think that for double game weeks and bench boosts, but I do think that's probably what I would look at. I think to get a strong finish to the season. The alternative is you could just set up and have 15 playing players and just make a decision week on week. Does my team look good to use it? Which is what you mentioned last week.
This is it. I think personally, I go for the latter, and obviously have the fixtures in mind when you're making your team, and if you've got space for a kind of luxury player or two that you put on the bench, obviously that you can put the players in there. But I most certainly would not be building my team now around a potential double game week a month down the line. That's my advice. Again, we worked it out last week. Your bench boost is worth 16 or 20 points. You could get that back in one game week with bells on, with a good wild card that is focused on the rest of the season, in my opinion. But anyway, we talked about BB and wild card and stuff. Last question for you, Adam, just on this section. So, Man City players. So I have taken out my Man City players ahead of the weekend, purely down to rotation fears, and I think there are better options moving forward. They're obviously home to Leeds, which is one of the best fixtures of the season. We have no idea who's going to play. Would you take out... So in my team, I had Diaz and Gundogan.
Yeah.
Would you hold any Man City players on a Game Week 31 wildcard now?
Yeah, I think Diaz is a potential, because I think the way City tend to play, they're very good at controlling games, and I think he'll play the majority of games, and he's good for 6 points. So 6 points for a 6 million player is pretty good, isn't it? 6 points per match. So Diaz would be the one I'd be tempted by. I think at the moment, if you wildcard him, there's just too much uncertainty around the Champions League and team selection to invest a lot of money in any of the big hitting players. And for big hitting, I'd say anybody more expensive than Mahrez.
Yeah.
So I think there's other options. And if you look at it, the next 3 game weeks, they've got Leeds, who we expect a lot of players to be rested for. They've then got Villa, which again, it could be the same because I think they played the FA Cup semi-final fairly recently, so fairly soon afterwards. And then they don't play in 33. So I think it's viable to go completely without. But if you're going to pick one, I would go with Diaz.
Okay. Ed Wells says to hold Edison, as does FPL Geordie. Stefan Al says hold Diaz forever, which in a normal season I would agree with.
I think Edison, I can't argue with that. I think the only thing I would say is, I can't argue with that. I'm just about to argue against it.
I probably will.
I think if you've got Edison, absolutely fine. I can see the sense in it, but you probably need another keeper to pair up with the blank game weeks because they're likely to miss. He misses 33 and he could miss. Is it 35 or 36? If they make this 36, isn't it? If they make the cup final, which they're likely to do so. So you just need someone to rotate with him. And I think with Edison, is he 5.9 million? He's for
ish.
So I just think there's Mendy. There are cheaper options, so I would probably go for someone cheaper.
Okay, so moving on then. So the big problem facing many FPL managers now who are wildcarding in 31, including myself, are which premiums can we be without? It is very, very tough, and I have been messing around with my team all week. We now have a graphic up showing the best 4 options for each remaining game week. I say the best 4 options, the best 4 options that I've picked. until the end of the season to help us potentially decide which of the premiums we need the least from a captaincy perspective. So for our podcast listeners, I will just run through them very, very briefly. With Game Week 31, the best options on paper are probably De Bruyne or Gundogan against Leeds. Then we've got Salah, Kane and Bruno. In Game Week 32, Kane, far and away the best captain. Shout for double game. I put Son in second. Salah against Leeds and then Vardy. Game Week 33, Salah against Newcastle will probably likely be, the standout pick there. Vardy's home to Palace. Bruno is away to Leeds. Grealish, I put in Grealish, Adam, just to appease. I was going to put Watkins. I thought that's a step too far, but they are home to West Brom in 33.
Grealish loves a local derby as well, so that's a good shout.
There you go. In 34, Kane has got Sheffield United, so he will clearly be the best pick there. And De Bruyne or Gundogan away to Palace. I put Aubameyang in. It could be any Arsenal player away to Newcastle. Vardy has got Southampton in 34. In 35, Kane away to Leeds or Vardy home to Newcastle. Salah is also home to Southampton in Game Week 35. Obviously, that may be a double game week. We need to keep checking that in there. This is just based on what we know at the moment. Game Week 36, Kane home to Wolves. City attacker away to Newcastle. Salah away to West Brom. Bruno home to Leicester. In Game Week 37, Bruno plays Fulham at home. Kane has got Villa at home. City attackers will have Brighton away and Salah will have Burnley away. In Game Week 38, Salah home to Palace, Bruno away to Wolves, City attacker home to Everton, Orba, Brighton, and what we've done, done a quick kind of count on this now, and Harry Kane appears 6 times out of the remaining 8 game weeks in terms of being in the top 4, and appears 5 times in the top 2. So Harry Kane just looks the best captaincy option in Game Week 32, 34, 35, 36, 37. Absolutely nailed on in my team without any shadow of a doubt. From then on, it gets quite interesting there. City attacker, KDB and Gundogan, they appear 5 times and they appear in the top 2 3 times. However, you just don't know who's going to play. And this is why I asked, because having De Bruyne is a very, very expensive player in your team when they are playing Champions League, they are playing FA Cup semi-finals, all the way around this period, and a Carabao Cup final as well. Surely De Bruyne will be prioritised for those games. So they're my thought. If you disagree, that's up to you. But I think the priority will be those Cup and Champions League games there. Next is Salah. So Salah appears in 7 of the 8, and this interested me. So we say Salah, Liverpool, but obviously Salah is the option there. Only 3 times in the top 2, in 31, 33 and 38, but Salah is massive in there. Bruno appears 5 times, but only twice in the top 2, and those top 2 in Game Week 37 and 38. So this leads me to believe, potentially, is Bruno that essential for the next 5 or 6 game weeks, especially again since they've got Europe. Okay, so that's just a question I'm asking there. Vardy appears 4 times in the top 2, twice 33 and 35, and then you've got Son, Grealish and Orba. We could probably ignore Grealish and Orba, but the main kind of observation and takeaways from it here, just from a captaincy view, Kane and Salah to me look probably I'm using the word essential. I don't mean essential. I don't like the term essential, but they look to be the best rotating captaincy options.
But both
until the end of the season.
Golden boots as well, aren't they?
Exactly. And both teams will potentially be out of Europe next week as well. So where I'm and ahhing about which of the premiums, these two look good. The interesting one for me then is Bruno and Vardy, and Vardy has got the better fixtures than Bruno in the medium term, which could lead to a kind of move off onto Bruno later in the season. So they're my kind of initial observations. What do you think there, Ad? Does anything kind of strike out at you?
Well, I was surprised you didn't have Mark's just put it now as I'm just about to say it, but I was surprised you didn't have Bruno as an option in Game Week 32.
It's going to be Kane, right?
In the top 4. That's what I meant.
Okay,
so
yeah.
You've got versus Burnley, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'd agree with you. So look, let's state the obvious. Kane is probably the best player in the game at the moment, both form and fixtures. I don't think you can make an argument against him. Salah, I think you can make an argument against him because I think some people will look at their Liverpool assets and some people might fancy double defence.
Yeah. Sure.
Some people might think, well, Jota can cover him. I don't personally think that, and I don't think you'd have the same confidence at the moment captaining Jota, just because will he start, will he not?
Yeah.
But I think there's a case that could be made against Salah. I know Bruno's not in there, but then I look at some of the fixtures.
He's scattered around, but I wouldn't say he's the best captaincy option for the game until the end.
I'd agree.
I suppose.
I'd agree. And I've seen a lot of people talk about going off Bruno. I just think with Bruno, for me anyway, I think I said last week, he's just one of these players that I completely trust in FPL. It's when I don't think they're even, ever since he's joined, and you could argue a bit like Salah as well, ever since he's joined, he's just got points.
Yeah.
And, it could be United haven't had a penalty for a few game weeks. That'll happen and he'll score, and all of a sudden he's got you 10, 15 points. So I personally, I was listening to the Surgery podcast earlier, and they were talking about the top three essential. Well, which three premiums would you pick? And mine would be Kane, Salah, and Bruno, without any hesitation whatsoever. I think Vardy's an interesting one, but he's got 2 goals in something like 12 league games. It's not the goals are dried up. He's got the same amount of goals in open play as Iheanacho this season, which surprised me. He's massively underperformed his XG. Now he's got the fixtures there to boost his goal tally.
Yeah.
So he could be a shrewd move, and a lot of people will have Iheanacho. So doubling up is often the way to go so you get the full benefit. It is tough because when you do your wild card and when you've got Bruno, Salah, Kane, Trent, Son in there, all of a sudden the funds do get used up quite a bit, don't they?
100%.
And I think we'll talk through your wild cards in a bit, but I think leaving one of those players out makes sense personally, and using the money elsewhere.
I think we have to, and we haven't even put De Bruyne really, in the conversation there either. So if we think Kane, Son, Bruno, Salah, Jota, Trent, it's very hard to get anyone else in, kind of above 7 or 8 million.
Yeah, agreed. I think at the moment, when you look at midfielders, when you look at the last 20 game weeks, there's a lot of value in some of the defenders. In fact, it's really interesting. Literally, the only forwards that consistently comes up in both expected stats and actual stats using the hub data is Kane. He's the only person. Yeah. I think Richarlison comes up in expected stats for the last 6 game weeks, and Iheanacho comes up in actual goals and actual FPL points. So there's only 2 forwards that are coming up in, and that's been over a long period of time, because we've talked about that before. So the forwards just aren't doing it. So I think at the moment, though, when you look at midfield, if I was wildcarding, I would probably go with 2 premiums and 3 sort of mid-price, like your Jota, Lingard, Mount. I just think there's so much value in that area at the moment, and that allows you to have the likes of Trent and boost your defence a little bit.
We've had some interesting comments in the chat, and Brian Schofield has asked them. So Salah has had 1 double-figure haul since game week 14. Comments, and my kind of comment on that is, I don't think it matters. I just
agree.
You just get a feeling of when someone's going to turn it on. There's no point waiting now for Salah to get maybe a goal against Villa, get a couple of goals against Leeds, and then bring him in for game week 33. You missed the boat. For me, the whole thing of fantasy football is to get on the players before they start scoring their points, and you can tell it. You can normally tell just by the way the whole team's performance, the players' enthusiasm, the positions they're getting in, and Salah against Arsenal, scored against Madrid away last night as well. Which is no mean feat either. Looks to be getting in much better positions. So for me, the kind of stars are aligning for Salah, and with his fixtures for the rest of the season, like I say, you don't want to be getting on him almost when it's too late and everyone else is. You want to get the points in the bank and then focus your energies on who is next rather than constantly being one behind. Sorry, apologies, Adam. Did you want to?
No. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I think you need to have a balance, and you definitely need to be looking ahead. And I think Salah, like Bruno, he's just the sort of player that can turn it on at any time, and he's looking good at the moment. I think he's probably looking as sharp as he probably has done over the last 6 or 7 weeks. So yeah, he's going nowhere for me.
Cool. Okay, so now we start to get into the interesting bits. So moving on now into more specific player picks for the Game Week 31 wildcard. We now have a graphic up. It is my shortlist of players, which is not very short actually looking at it. But what interested me most about this was the sizings of the groupings of players, which kind of reflects the formation I had in mind. So for those listening on a podcast version, I will just run through this very, very quickly. But
and you wouldn't go up to 2 hours.
Yes, no, exactly. So I'm not really interested in any of the premium. The keepers, mid-price keepers, Martinez, Patricio, Mendy and Leno, 4 I've kind of looked at, and Forster as a budget option. We'll run through all these, a little bit more now on the kind of whys and wherefores. Defenders, premiums, Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, Aspilicueta, Diaz and Creswell. Mid-price, I've got Rudiger and Dallas, and then budget, Holding, Phillips and Amati. Premium midfielders, Salah, De Bruyne and Bruno. Mid-price midfielders, where all the action's at, Neto, Maddison, Mount, Lingard, Jota, Gundogan, Son, Rafinha and Saka. And budget midfielder, Smith Rowe. Premium forwards, Kane and Vardy. Mid-price forwards, Antonio, Lacazette, Iheanacho and Wood. And budget forwards, Davis, Brewster and Vidra. Game Week 31, 1 week punt captaincy, and this is interesting. Sterling, Aguero and Jesus, and I haven't made my mind up yet, because if one of them starts, I'm not too bothered for Aguero, because I do think Aguero will likely only get 60-70 minutes. If Jesus starts against Leeds, I think he can do some damage, but we'll move on there anyway. But what interested me about the kind of makeup, of this, is it very much reflects my feelings towards the formation and structure I want for my wild card. So if you look at the size of the groupings, I've got 5 premium defenders, and I've got 9 mid-price midfielders, and that to me kind of tells me where I'm at in terms of I'm maybe going to want 3 or 4 premium defenders in my wildcard team. Maybe 3 or 4 mid-price midfielders, and maybe 1 premium striker, 1 budget. Have you got any? Can you see any kind of startling omissions there, or anyone on there, Adam, that you're kind of surprised with?
HK's put in the chat. There's one glaring omission.
Let's have it, HK.
I'm interested to see who it is. To be honest, I nearly fell asleep as you were reading through them, particularly with the.
Thank you, mate.
Quite a long list, wasn't it?
It is. It was. It's more for the podcast listeners, but yeah.
No, I'm joking. Yeah,
I've left Shaw off. HK. I have left Shaw off. So apologies. Shaw.
Shaw's on the list, isn't he?
No, he's not. I haven't put him in there. He's in my team, but yeah, Shaw.
He's on the slides that you sent through to me anyway.
Yeah.
So
cool.
Okay.
So are there any omissions there, Adam, or anything?
No, I don't think so. No.
Cool. Okay.
I think everyone just wants to see your team now. I think we're all
we're all at a point. Okay. So yeah, this is like I say, my kind of short list. Everyone's mentioned Shaw. I've left off Shaw accidentally. Shaw is in there. Shaw is in my wildcard team. But if there's anyone else which anyone feels should be in that list, Parky says Pereira for West Brom. I think we've probably missed the boat on him a little bit, especially with all the other options. Johnny Inglis says Calvert-Lewin, and Daniel Roberts says Wolves defence. What about Sice? Just not really interested. I've got Patricio in there, but it was kind of make the numbers up really. But if you want me to move on to my team, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if anyone's interested and move on to my wildcard.
We just skip that bit.
And Nihal says Cody. Edwell says I would put Fofana in there. And Gaz's Flute 83 says Amati at risk once Soyuncu is fit. So I'll just call out a couple here. In goals, Mendy, I really like. Forster, I think, is the 4 million of choice. Southampton have got a really nice run of games towards the end of the season. I think Forster's has now done. He's now started 5 of the last 6. So for me, Mendy and or Leno and Forster probably the ones of choice. Martinez will have a double later on, but their fixtures are not very nice. So that's why I kind of left him. TAA for me, Alexander Arnold is probably my premium of choice. I think Aspilicueta probably my Chelsea defender of choice just for his nailedness. If Reece James was just a bit more nailed, I would really like Reece James, but he doesn't tend to start every game, but he just looks so dangerous every time he plays. Get a bit of grief in the chat. Everyone wants me to show him the team, show him the wildcard team. I'll just leave it a second or two longer. Mid price, Rudiger for me at his price is I think it's a fantastic option, and like I mentioned, Dallas already more for the end. In terms of budget, Holding for the long-term fixtures at 4.2, Phillips at 4 million looks a brilliant enabler. I put Amati in. I'm not sure, whether Amati is going to play long term. I don't think Leicester fans think he will. I think once Soyuncu's back from his COVID issues, he may be back. I tell you what, I'll move on to the team, is it? Because we're getting a bit of thing in the chat. Okay, so this is my current draft on screen. Coming on screen now. So this is my current wildcard draft. It's important to say that it does include Salah and Alexander Arnold. So I've got Mendy in goals, 5.2. I've got Forster as the backup keeper, what I mentioned earlier. I've got Alexander Arnold at 7.3. I've got Luke Shaw, so I bought it at 5.1. I think he's a bit more expensive now. I bought him 5.1. And I've got Rudiger at 4.7. I've also got Dallas, like I say, for Leeds fixed at the end. And I've got Holding. More as a budget pick than anything. But Arsenal's fixtures are good all the way through. I'll probably, stick him on the bench most of the way through. But, Holding is a decent option as well, in some of Arsenal's figures. When Arsenal went on their run around January time of playing really well, Holding was in that team, and with David Luiz now out for the season, Holding looks good in there. I've got Salah, Bruno and Son in midfield. I have also got Jota and Mount, so I absolutely love this midfield. And up front I've got Harry Kane, I have got Iheanacho up front at the moment at 5.7, and I've got the legend, that is Ian Davis for Aston Villa at 4.2 million. So the things I wanted to kind of point out here is that I've circled Alexander Arnold and Davis, and basically the point I'm making here is that if I want Salah and I want Trent, I have to make a sacrifice somewhere, and the sacrifice is up front. The problem I've got with this team, if Iheanacho does lose his place, it means I've only got the one striker really up front then in Harry Kane. I don't really mind playing a 4-5-1 or a 5-4-1 really, because I think there is a real good value in defence and in midfield. That midfield, Mount, Salah, Bruno, Son and Jota for me is absolutely spanking. Taking a lot of grief in the chat.
I'm staying quiet. I'm just waiting
about not having Lingard, and people are saying Maddison over Mount. Okay, we'll come to all this now. But if I just move on to second draft, so this is what I wanted to show, in terms of, so this is the one with Salah and Phillips. So this is having Phillips instead of Trent. This is the problem with Trent. 7.3 million. He is so expensive. And basically the key difference I can make if I have Phillips instead of Trent is I can then upgrade Davis to someone. I've put Antonio
to a player who's injured.
I know he's probably injured.
So effectively, you're wildcarding to get an injured Antonio, and you're wildcarding for Nat Phillips.
I'm not wildcarding for Phillips.
You've activated the wildcard for Nat Phillips. No. Come on.
No, I haven't.
No, he's a good value option. I'll give you that.
I think he's a good value option. But the point I'm making there is I can then move a bit more into the mid-price striker. Instead of having Davis as basically a dead player. I know Antonio's injured, right? Everyone's saying Antonio's injured. I know that now. I think at this time it's just more of like a placeholder. It's just to show the kind of team that you can have in terms of the structure or kind of makeup of that team. That Antonio could be Chris Woods, he could even potentially stretch to Lacazette or someone like that. But that's the team with Salah and Phillips. And the final draft I wanted to show was no Salah. And I quite like this. Oh, Sanjay Patel. Fergie, is this a joke team? Oh my goodness. That's harsh. Is this a joke team?
The thing is, I don't know which one he's talking about.
I know. You could say it for all three.
Which is the joke team?
But this is the kind of team I can get out with no Salah. And I don't think I can go with no Salah. But the key difference here is I get to keep Trent. I'd have to downgrade Salah to Neto. I do like Neto as an option. Actually, I do think he's a good option. Their fixtures are absolutely superb. He's on set pieces. When they score, he's normally involved. So I do think he is a decent option at 5.7. But it does mean then I can upgrade Davis to Vardy and have a front three, which I would be really exciting, of Vardy, Iheanacho and Kane, which, I think going into this run of the few weeks, if Iheanacho keeps his place, I think that would be, a really, really nice move there. So they're my kind of three options. I'm just going to spin back quickly to my initial team. So this is my team. And once I say, everyone's gone about Davis, right? I haven't picked Davis because I think he's going to be starting every game. He's a good option, right? He will be the 15th player in my team. Nice. It's pretty, hope is fairly obvious, right? And I will be playing, a kind of 4-4-2 or 4-5-1 or, 3-5-2, whatever it is.
I haven't even said anything yet.
I know. I'm even arguing with myself. I'm like,
the chat has got you that wound up. Yeah. I think, where do we start? So, no, I'm going to be constructive. I think the thing to probably be aware of with Mendy and Forster is there is a risk you wouldn't have a keeper in one of the game weeks. So I think it's fairly low. But if Southampton and Chelsea get to the cup final, I think there's a possibility. People might correct me.
They're both underdogs in both games. Is the only thing
they are. Yeah, I think the probability. Yeah. I think the probability is low, but you never know.
Guy Parfitt, absolute Davis captain, like what an absolute slot.
I think. So I actually I like your first draft. I think your first draft is probably the safest draft, and it makes a lot of sense. And I know you're picking the likes of, you like Mount, don't you? So I can.
I do like Mount, and twice I've mentioned him on this podcast over the last month. He scored on the same evening in the Champions League. He's done it this evening. He did it a few weeks ago as well. Sorry, mate, go on.
I think the thing I like about the first draft, in terms of what you said with the setup, is spot on, and what we've been saying over the last few weeks is that the points are in defence and midfield, particularly midfield, and going 4-5-1 or 3-5-2 is the way to go in my opinion. So I think your first draft's really good, and it'll be close to what I go for. I think the glaring admissions are probably, I think, Lingard possibly.
Yeah,
I think people have mentioned it.
Yeah.
How will he do without Antonio? How will he do without he's shown without Rice already, but he is at the moment. I think he's got something to play for, and he's just on a different level. And the goal he scored the other night was some of the goal. So it's just how long do we think that could go on for? But I think his motivation is going to be so high with the England. So I think Lingard is a possible omission, and that would free you up a little bit of money. But I think you like Mount for that.
I do.
Yeah.
I just like Lingard for me. He's having a cracking time of it, right? I think he will miss Antonio. I think Chelsea are a better team. I think Mount is a better player than Lingard. Mount is also on penalties when Jorginho is not on the pitch, and we've seen nothing to show any different. He's got a cracking goal this evening in the Champions League. He is Tuchel's. He's his boy, right? And I just prefer Mount. Lingard is having a really good time, right? But again, one of the keys in fantasies for me is it's not only about when to jump on a player, it's also when to jump off a player. And I haven't had Lingard. I've missed his hauls, right? I've missed his hauls. I just don't see the point in bringing him in now. He's not going to keep scoring 12, 14 points every week. He's had a really good run, and that's I'm thinking long term here. I don't want to have to make transfers weeks down the line to take Lingard out because I've missed his run. I'm looking at players who I think will do well now for the running. I think there's a bit of of a thing here is that people are saying to go for the form players, but I'm looking at now the final 8 game weeks. So I think it's basically like a game week 1. It's like looking now just at these next 8 game weeks. Who's going to score the most points? I know it's.
I can't argue with you going Mount over Lingard because I think I see your logic for it, and everyone's got their preferences.
Yeah.
I'm loyal to Jay Lings at the moment because he's done well for me over the last few weeks, but I get it. And Matt has looked really, really good recently. I think the one thing that I would say about this team where you may have problems, have you looked at game week 33 in terms of, because you've got obviously Kane and Son who aren't playing, and then you're going to be relying on the likes of potentially Holding, Dallas, Davis. Are you going to be saving the transfer so you can maybe address a couple of those issues?
Yeah,
so I think that's a possibility. Is that the bench is for the short term is fairly weak in comparison to what you had before.
I think it's very rare that I use a transfer a week after wild carding, right? So I would probably have 2 going into 33, and I hope to keep 2 as long as I can, all the way through. We may get these doubles in 35. I'm gonna want to try and hold the 2 onto there. If I do, and we talked about the kind of fixture shift for teams, in between 34 and 35 for the remainder of the season. I would like to think that I could hold the transfer basically, most of the way through here to 34 or 35. And this is why I picked this team. I think I personally think if I picked Lingard now, I don't think I'd want him in a week or 2. Whereas West Ham's run at the end of the season is really, really nice. I may want to bring him in then, sort of thing. So, but no, I take your point. But I would hope that.
I think the other risk that you've got, looking at it, is that I think you've got a lot of possible rotation risks, and I think it could put you in a little bit of trouble. So just going across the all of the team. So Forster is a possibility. Could at some point. I don't think he's 100. He's got the spot at the moment, but you wouldn't be surprised if McCarthy took it back at any point. Not that you're necessarily relying on him, but you might need him for the odd game week. Holding, he might have the spot at the moment, being the only right-sided centre-back free, but I don't think it's guaranteed long term.
No, that's fair enough.
Rudiger, I think he will keep the spot, but there'll be the odd game that he'll miss out. And then, Shaw could potentially miss games with... further down the line, if with Tellez particularly, if they start to prioritise the Europa League and maybe they've got second sewn up, and then you look at Jota, Mount, Davis, Iniacho. So I think they're I don't think that they're a huge risk, but I think the cumulative effect of having 6 or 7 players at some point it could impact you. But, I think I like the structure of this team the most. I think it's probably the safest structure, and it's where the points are at the moment. The one thing I would say is, when the last draft, you talked about ditching Salah. When you looked at the captain matrix, you talked about Fernandes. Have you looked at what you could do if you ditch Bruno instead?
Yeah. Well, I haven't looked, but it probably wouldn't be far off the same as this.
Yeah.
No Salah team, because there's only 1.4 million or something in between them. So, even if I had to downgrade Neto, to Smith Rowe or someone, something like that, not to play him before everyone goes nuts in the chat as well, or a captain or anything. But it does mean I could have Vardy then, so I would have Salah and Vardy, and Kane, and Son, and Jota, and Mount, and Trent. But it means I wouldn't have Bruno. I think the one I'm kind of willing to let go at the moment is Vardy. I think out of the two, I agree with your point earlier, and I've been a massive advocate for Bruno all season. He had left my team all season because of exactly what you say. He's just so consistent.
Yeah.
And he's such a good player. But I do think that Vardy could potentially outscore him. So that is something I could think about, and go with Salah and go without Bruno. But this is the conundrum, right? And there's no right answer. There's no, it's which one misses out. It's either Salah, Bruno, or Vardy. Now I get the feeling Vardy could outscore Bruno in the coming 4 or 5 games, but at the moment I'm on Bruno. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe a bit of FOMO, as we kind of mentioned last week. I'm not sure, but that that's a really good point as well there, actually. Just in the chat, I've taken an absolute hammering in the chat. Guy Parfit says Davis captain. Joe Finley battered. Davis is going to smash it for you. I think says TAA, you must be kidding me. Really? I think he's a fantastic pick the rest of the season. Parky 1977. Show us your real team now, Fergie. Flipping heck. What about Pereira? Gavinho 99. I reckon if you hit the auto pick button, Fergie, you'd have more hope. And Joe Finley battered. Davis essential. I've had some essential shouts. Relic returns in all fairness, says Vidra, never Davis. I do want to make it clear, make it really clear that I would also say, who was the striker a few seasons ago? It was the best transfer I ever made, right? I brought in it was like 4.3 million.
Isaac Success, I think.
No, it wasn't him. I was thinking he was a Huddersfield striker.
Oh, okay.
I think he might have been Scottish.
Yeah, Colin Quainer. That's
Quainer,
it.
Right? So I brought in Colin Quainer in game week 2 or 3 in my wild card. And that was the season. My best ever season was because I had all my money in the players instead of having a play-in second and third bench. And yeah, exactly that. And Davis would be the same. I would never play him, but I'm hopeful I won't need a bench between now and the end of the season. I don't see why. Like why I need a bench. So
you're not going to have the good thing is you won't have any massive benching headaches. So I think that's in a way a positive. It will make your decision making a little bit easier. And to be fair, Killian Davis, I think he'll be okay, particularly for the next 3 or 4 game weeks, because I'm not expecting Grealish to be rushed back. And I think when he came on the weekend, he played really well. He created the second goal, and I think you might get quite a few cameos from him if needed. So if you need the bench points,
I won't need him. He's going to be 15th man. How am I going to be needing my third bench at this end of the season? I'm just not going to.
Well, I'm backing you up here. I'm saying
I do.
You could be in a position where you're absolutely gutted that your third sub Davis hasn't come on for us.
I would. Joy would also say I would rather miss out on 2 points rather than spend £1 million getting a decent third bench player. I just don't see the point in it.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I think if I was wildcarding, I would go with a 3-5-2 and I would have Davis as my third striker.
Boom.
I think he's so cheap, isn't he? I think it makes sense. I think it's your last on your bench. You might get a one or 2 point cameo, mightn't you? So I think it's.
Stop saying about cameos. I don't want his points. I don't. I'm not gonna.
Mate,
I'm not gonna need his points. He's literally just a placeholder in my team. He's like a statue in the garden.
When Mount, Jota are rested for the Champions League and Rudiger, and Iheanacho's been benched. You might need his points, but you'll be grateful to get his 1 or 2 point cameo. That's what I'm saying. So it's there's nothing wrong in that. I like I said, I would pick Davis if I was on a wild card. I'm agreeing with you.
No,
and he would be
I know,
bench.
but you keep saying it like I'm picking him for his bloody points, and I'm not. Look at Shane. Look at Shane 01. Is a -12 for Davis worth it? This is the kind of grief I get in the chat.
I'm sticking up for you. You're having to go at me.
No,
you're having to go at me for sticking up for you. What are you expecting? It's brilliant.
Anyway,
so we all agree. We all agree that Davis is a brilliant wild card pick.
Oh, shut up!
I'm agreeing with you on it.
You're not agreeing. He's not a brilliant wild card pick, is he? He's just the cheapest player who may get a point in third bench.
But it's what he allows you to do with
Colin Quainer. He was my best signing that season.
Colin Quainer. So
Michael Lynch backs it. Don't worry. I feel better. And Andy.
I'm pretty sure I've said I back it 1,000 times.
Yeah, you have. But you've got this. You've got this thing. You've got this little thing, which is like, oh yeah, I think he's a fantastic pick for this little.
No, yeah, I do. I think I think he's a good pick because I think 3-5-2, 4-5-1, 4-4-2 are the ways to go. Sorry, 4-5-1 or 3-5-2, and I think last on your bench he's perfect. But with your team, you might need him at some point with the rotation.
See, you could have just finished then, but you have to go on. Daniel Robert now says Keenan Davis deserves a Ballon d'Or. Conrad Sukshekiewicz, Davis essential triple captain. I keep do
you know what? I really like Keenan Davis as a player. He can't score. He's one of these players that works hard. He can't score. He really can't score. Look at his goal scoring record. It's abysmal. But I do like him, and I hope he does get an extended run in the team. And there'll be nobody happier for you if he scores than me. So I really hope he scores against Liverpool.
He's my Colin Quainer on the season. So I had one season about three seasons ago now. I got up to the top 100, and this is why Quainer was the key part in that, because he just allowed me to put all my money on the pitch. And Colin Quainer, Keenan Davis, FPL legends. They're like the. I'm trying to think of an unsung hero in a team, the ones who just do the job that no one else wants to kind of do. I just read there. Somebody's just put in the chat about Keenan Davis's price. He's just going to fly overnight. If he gets a price rise, fair play. You've caused that price rise. So okay, he will not get a price. If anything, he'll probably get a drop. Okay, let's have a look at your non-wildcard team, Adam. Let's get back to some semblance of. I don't know. If my team is going to look poor in comparison. So where is my? So just before we go for that, have you decided which team you're going for? At the moment, it's the Ferguson with the Davis at the moment, but. There's very much, like I say, this Vardy, Bruno, Salah thing. I've got to not have one of those. I think Vardy is the brave pick. I think Salah and Bruno is the safe pick. Yeah. And Vardy is the brave pick. So I need to make a decision there. Yeah. No, I think your first wild card, the Davis one, is the best team. Thank you, mate. Stop smiling every time you say it. Just smile every time you say it. And it's only because I'm reading the comments as we're going. I know, I'm reading. Comments that do it. Shane Owen is sharp. He's looking at your team now and he's saying, poor team, no Davis. Look at that. I mean, this is what we've got. Do you know what? Actually, wow, yeah. He's got a point. I haven't got Davis. Yeah. I'm a bit. It's making me think now. Do I need to press the wild card button? I've got FOMO on Davis. Do you know what? If he scores the weekend, it'd be brilliant. Anyway, right. So my team at the moment, I've got a choice between Martinez and Meslier. I'm going to start Martinez. I've got Azpilicueta, Diaz, Duncan, Shaw at the back. So I'm fairly happy with that.
I've got midfield, Salah captain, Lingard, Fernandes, Rafinha, and I'm bringing in Jota for Trossard.
Nice.
And then Kane up front by himself. And I haven't got Davis on the bench, but I've got Watkins, Bamford, and Soufal.
Yep.
I think so. I fancy Rafinha to do okay the weekend against City, and I think that I don't think Leeds will get thrashed by City. I think it'll be a really competitive game, like the first one was. And I think Leeds have played okay the last few weeks, and I think particularly if Diaz doesn't play, I think Rafinha could get some joy. Okay. So I'm playing him. Again, he has been so consistent. If you look at his stats, it's just been. I don't worry about him playing the better teams. So I think
what about his points?
Yeah, but
you say he's been consistent, but he hasn't turned his form into points, really, is he?
I don't think he's done too bad. I think since he's come in, he's been. He has been up there since, game week. I think from the Christmas period onwards, I think he's done well. I don't think, I think he could have done even better. I think that's he's probably missed out on a couple of double-digit hauls because of Bamford's or other players' wayward finishing. But
I think that's fair. I know what
you mean. He could have. I know what you mean. He could have had more. But again, if you look in the top 20 players over any game week, any 4 or 5 game week period since Christmas, he's always there. And so I'm happy to keep Rafinha, and I quite like the fact that people are ditching him. I think the City games, that's probably the toughest. But the Liverpool game, I think who's he playing against? Trent. There's
my man Trent
will be against Robert, but they might switch. They'll probably switch sides and put him against Trent, which he has done. So yeah, I think I will keep him. So that's my team. I'm pretty set. I did consider captaining Jota, but I'll go with Salah, I think, and go safe. Yeah. So I'm fairly happy with it.
I think you've got a really nice team, considering you're not on wildcard, for this week. Dunk, obviously, Diaz, you're not sure, but you've got some nice replacements there, Watkins and Bamford and stuff. I think you've got. I'm reading the chat. It's absolutely killing me. It's just I've never had so much sick.
I haven't seen a comment about Davis in a while, so this is hilarious. I'll tell you what, if my team beats your wildcard team, the violin is going to go next week.
Can you imagine? We're getting so much chat. Like, okay, Vidra is probably a better option over Davis. I think he's 0.6 more. I haven't got the 0.6, which is why I haven't got. This is why I've literally gone for the cheapest player I can get. Daniel Roberts says, if this video gets to 500 likes, can you captain Davis this week? It should be getting to 500 likes anyway. What's the matter with you all? Come on, we got loads in the chat. Please give us a like. Just if I've given you a laugh, with the Keenan Davis shout, how am I going to be able to log on to Twitter tomorrow?
I didn't even think people would.
I look.
I didn't even think people would. Somebody I like Sanjay's because Sanjay Patel's quote, Fergie, can you wildcard into Adam's team?
It's the comment is coming back to haunt me from game week 3, Adam, when I showed you my wildcard team, and you actually thought that was the team I was wildcarding out of. I was like, oh my goodness. People are asking Kane to Davis for a -4. It's like Davis to Real Madrid. It's just, it's harsh. Okay, so that is your look at Fergie. Be honest, is Davis essential now? I think I wouldn't say he's essential, but what I would say is, if you're looking for a really, really, really cheap player to enable a decent 14, I think Davis is a decent pick. Anyway, so that. Sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought and everything at the moment. What's next? Okay, game week 31 captaincy. Let's have a look at here we are. Captaincy, Keenan Davis. No. So who was the best captain for game week 31? We put a poll out earlier on fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. No, we didn't. We put it out on FFH_HQ. I've been completely and utterly thrown here. How we're going to get through the rest of this, I don't know. Salah at home to Villa got 42% of the vote. De Bruyne at home to Leeds got 40.7%. Kane at home to Man United only got 10%. And Bruno only got 7%. So it's between Salah and De Bruyne.
I didn't even hear a word you said there. I've just been...
Who's the best captain for Gameweek 31?
Right, best captain. Right, I'll go my thoughts. So I thought about this before and I can't remember my order now. Salah, Kane, Bruno, De Bruyne, because I don't think De Bruyne will play. That's the order I'm going.
Okay, so are you able to embellish a little bit more on why you think Salah is the best captain? Yeah,
I think out of those four, I think Salah has got the best fixture. I think the games United have been in against the bigger teams have been quite tight, with the exception of Spurs at the start of the season. So so for me, I think that game could be quite tight. So I think Salah, his looks on form, he's playing well. I think him and Jota are linking up quite well as well. So for me, I'm sorry, I can't do this.
Chaos. It's absolute chaos here. Look at business cast. I wildcarded for Nat Phillips and Keenan Davis. Would be an awesome quote for a tombstone. I can't cope.
Oh, right. So yeah, that's my order. I think a City punt is fine. I think looking at it, probably Sterling is the one you would go for. Because I'm not convinced on Aguero. I'm not convinced on Jesus. Will he start? Will he not? So I think Sterling is probably the one to go for. A few people have put about Salah being rested. I think Mane is more likely, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think he's looked a little bit off it recently. Yeah. I'm trying to think of any outside captain picks from the fixtures.
So what about Jota ahead of Salah?
Yeah, I think that's fine. And I think when I sent in my team first time round, I think I was going to captain Jota, but I like both of them. And I think for me, I'm just a little bit more confident that Salah will start. That's the only reason. But yeah, I could actually see myself captaining Jota at some point.
Yeah, agree with that.
He's like a £9 or £10 million player really at the moment. So. Yeah, I think for me, I'm captaining Salah, but I do think as an alternative, maybe go for Sterling possibly.
We've had some shouts for Lingard. We had some on Twitter. We also had some off Brian Scofield. The Irish PC has said Mahrez. I think if Mahrez hadn't started midweek, I think he would have been a good punt. But I think Mahrez is definitely part of the best start 11 at the moment. So I don't Mahrez starts. From City, I think Sterling I just think Sterling hasn't looked very good. I think if I was to have a punt on a City player this weekend, I would go for Jesus, because it's very, very rare Jesus is completely rested, and he, I know he came on in the Champions League, and he's very likely to start next week, but I can see Jesus playing against him personally.
I think a few people in the chat are mentioning an Arsenal striker versus Sheffield United, which I think is completely valid.
So I had Lacazette actually in an earlier draft, which funnily enough had equally as much grief as I've got for Davis. But I think a lot depends on tomorrow's starting team. So if Lacazette doesn't play against Slavia Prague tomorrow, I think he could be a good shout. You've also got Ings against West Brom, and Alonso against Palace, because obviously Alonso was omitted from the Champions League win this evening as well.
I think with Ings, I just think West Brom need to win that game, and I think they'll be so confident following the win at Chelsea that I don't know. I think that if they get ahead, they'll be doing everything they can to keep a clean sheet. So that said, Ings did look very good against Burnley. Chris Wood for Burnley. There you go, against Newcastle, good form.
I think I think it's it's absolutely wide open, and I'm still not sure who to captain this week. Actually,
Oh, don't say that. We're going to get Davis written in the comments a thousand times.
I think we're Davis out. Daniel Roberts, Pierre-Emerick Davis. Does Davis have any midweek games? It's absolutely constant in the chat. Absolute swines.
Do you know what? On a serious note, just whilst you've mentioned him, if Grealish is out, I would like Davis to start for Villa. I really up alongside Watkins and just to press the Liverpool back line, because I think he changed the game when he came on, and I'm actually being serious.
He changed the game when he came on.
He played. I thought he was brilliant when he came. I think him and Trezeguet did actually change the game for Villa when they came on, and I think I think he allows Villa to play slightly different with him and Watkins can press fairly high. And I think when we did that against them at Villa Park, it worked out really well. Obviously, if Grealish is back, I wouldn't do. I would just go with the normal team. Yeah. So anyway, that's it. That's it on Davis. We'll not mention him.
Look at all this: Sadio Davis, Edgar Davis, Sergio Davis, Heung-min Davis, Kunan Davis. It's absolutely non-stop. Yeah, so I think the best captaincy option this weekend for me. Do you know what? It's really tough. I would say
Davis fully rested throughout the season for this moment.
I would say De Bruyne if he was playing, or if you knew a City, but obviously we don't. So I would say Salah. Do you know, I'm going to go for Kane against Man United at the moment. I think he's just on form. He's absolutely on fire. So I'm going to go for Kane against United. I think he can cause Maguire a few problems. So I go for Kane.
Yeah, he's looking good, isn't he, at the moment?
Our predicted best Game Week 31 captain is actually Salah. So Salah is top. De Bruyne is second. Mane is third. I'm not sure how much it takes into recent form. Mahrez fourth, and Kane fifth. Davis, Choupo-Moting, Virgil van Davis. Oh, look at this. Cristiano Davis, though. Flipping heck. So that's what our prediction tool says. Competition time for our YouTube watchers. So every week, all our YouTube watchers have a chance to win a Fantasy Football Hub mug. Oh, I haven't brought it up with me this evening. I haven't got it with me, but they are fantastic quality. We're selling these too, along with other Hub merchandise. With that FPL merch. There's a link in the description below. We're currently running 20% off discount using coupon code FFHub20, while Hub members can get 25% off. In Game Week 30, this is absolutely unbelievable, right? So we have a watcher or listener called Rishi Patel, and this is the third mug that Rishi has won since we started doing this. He picked out Matheus Pereira, who got the 21-pointer against Chelsea. Absolutely unbelievable.
First, you would think it was a fluke, but that is incredible.
It's his third, and I've checked the comments, and they were on there. And what a pick, Rishi!
Is he watching live?
I haven't seen him live in the chat this evening, but get in touch, Rishi. Third mug. You can open your own shop soon. Never mind. FPL merch. You could open your own shop with all the mugs you're winning. Absolutely unbelievable. Emery Kappa asks, Fergie, blondes or brunettes? I'm not sure where this is, but this is going. It's all about the personality of me, Emery. So anyway, I don't know where that came from. So for the competition this evening and a chance to win one of these beautiful mugs, please like, subscribe, and then comment on who will be the top FPL point scorer in Game Week 31. It is limited to one entry each. If there's a tie, we'll do a random draw for the winner. So please, everyone, like the stream. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and comment who you think will be the top scorer in FPL Game Week 31. Adam, who is your pick for this week?
I am going to go for... who should I pick? I will go for... I'll go for Lacazette.
I think that's a really nice shout. It's a good shout. I'm going to go for a striker. plays for a team.
Plays for Villa.
Plays for a team having a good
million.
season. 4.2 million. I am going to go for Keenan Davis. I think he will be the top scorer in Gameweek 31. Yeah, we will see, and we will announce the winner next week. Finally, in all this madness, how we managed to get this far, I don't know. But we take a look at the top of our at FFH _Green Arrow mini league. In 10th place, we have Marco Lukic. In 9th, Matt Graham. 8th, Tammy Donahoe. 7th, Vigard Knudsen. 6th, Victor Sandberg. 5th, Luka Bubnic. 4th, Douglas Wong. 3rd, Michael Helen. 2nd, El Kamali. 1st, Daniel Haynes scored 65 points last game week, and Daniel is 102nd overall. Well done, everyone on here. Absolutely fantastic effort, everyone who is on this league, having a great season. Make sure you join our FPL podcast mini league. There'll be a prize for first place, including a guest appearance on our first pre-season podcast of next season. The mini league code is LV24ZG. Or our YouTube watchers can join using the auto link description below. And that is a wrap from us, Adam. I mean, I'm sorry everyone listening on the podcast version, because it must have sounded like absolute chaos, but it absolutely has been. We've had a really good time on this stream with everyone listening to the chat. Everyone has been absolutely superb. Thank you so much for joining us. And Sanjay, Fergie, can you please do a wildcard draft every week? No, I can't do one every week because I can't take it. Dominic Jervis, be waiting for Fergie's wildcard team all week. Then we get Davis. Flipping heck. Diego Mara Davis. And someone's changed their name to Kieran Davis in the chat. Promise we won't let you down, Fergie. Come on. FFH _Green Davis. Can it be a Davis shirt for the winner? Superb. Adam, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Many thanks, as usual, to all our loyal watchers and listeners for their great questions and comments. We really do appreciate everyone joining us here. We have some very exciting news ahead of next week. We're arguably the best FPL manager of all time, Matthew Jones, FPL Matthew on Twitter, will be joining us live next Wednesday evening. So if you haven't met Matthew before, haven't seen Matthew before, heard him, he has got an absolutely incredible record. So he's played FPL for 11 seasons. He has had 8 top 10k finishes and 3 top 500 finishes. Absolutely amazing record. Brilliant guy. And one of the true brilliant FPL minds out there today. Adam, the very best of luck to you for game week 31. I hope I beat you. If I don't beat you, then I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble next week, aren't I? Where can people? I think
we all know what we want for next week. So
Davis Hall.
Yeah, that would actually make my weekend if that happens, for more than one reason. So yeah, you can find me Hopcroft13 on Twitter.
Superb. My Twitter handle, my new one is at FFH _Fergie. So ignore the one on screen at Fergie222. So this podcast and video will be on the Fantasy Football Hub YouTube channel, with the podcast versions available on all major podcast platforms. If you like what you watch, please press the like button. Remember to subscribe to the channel at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you enjoyed your listen, please rate the podcast and leave a comment. I did write a note to say, hopefully this helped you prepare your wildcards, but we have just had an absolute hammering. Look at Conrad. Should I bring in Kane or Davis? I mean, how can you answer that? Our handles on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok are at FFH _HQ. Our podcast Twitter handle is at FFH _Green Arrow. Make sure you give us a follow. Thank you so much, everyone, for all your interaction and chat. Absolutely superb. We have got the best audience out there. Absolutely love it. Sanjay says, bring your violins next week. I really hope I don't need it next week. It'd be absolute chaos. Our website is fantasyfootballhub.co.uk, where you will find everything you need for fantasy football, all under one roof, including the player comparison tools, the fixture ticker, Opta stats, top player, team reveals, the points prediction tool, the Keenan Davis fan club, and much, much more to join the tens of thousands of other fantasy managers and sign up to the hubs. Use all our amazing resources. Just click the top link in the description below. You will not regret it. We'll be back next week with FPL Matthew, looking ahead to game week 32 after Keenan Davis nails a 13-pointer on the weekend. Stay safe and may all your arrows be green. Good night all.